So welcome in session, and I don't know if you all know it, but you are able to come right into our conversation. If you want to be a guest and talk about what's on your mind, I would love to have you. It's all about what's on your mind. In Session is a program that allows you, as the people around the community, in the community, and around the globe, to be able to have a free space to say what's on your mind. Sometimes you'll get me on camera, and sometimes you'll get me off camera. The idea of this is to provide for you a safe space to be able to talk about things. In the meantime, I would love for you all to go to our Facebook page at vibetalk. And we're going to leave it in the comments for you. It's vibe dash. Actually, I'll do the whole address on Facebook. Usually I'm going to try to do this at least twice a week, so that you all could feel like you have somewhere to talk. I'm finding that people want to talk about stuff. And my co-host and I are giving you the opportunity to talk. We want you to be able to come in and really get to the heart of the matter. As a life coach, I've been life coaching for just about 4 years, and 3 years live on air has been my podcast. So welcome to a program, and here is our direct connect. Line, and you can be on air right now or not, or you can stay right where you are. If you're like me, I don't like to be on camera a lot, but I will be. If you saw our last in session, I actually was online. We talked about recovery last time, and I want to talk about children and how they learn. Children learn by watching what we do as adults, role models, caretakers, caregivers, teachers. And I'm wondering, when we were children, how life affected us, because we were always given to, or direction through, our parents, our guardianship. You know, this is a continued conversation in having to really be careful about how we are speaking to our children. And I'll tell you, sometimes we can speak to our children very harshly. I know that I have been guilty of that. Because they're getting on our nerves, even as young adults, when they grow up. So, I want to hear from all of you, and especially those of you who are living in Florida right now. I'd love for you to call in. Lines are open. I'd love for you guys to chime in. This is in session. We've had about 3 of them, and you can find them on our YouTube page. And that is if you're really wanting to find that. Check out our YouTube page. Our YouTube page is at Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. And you can always talk about things even there. If you're in Florida, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear that you all are safe, that you all are accounted for, so that we can think about others as we talk about what it's like to have children and how we can see that things really affect them. And I thought it would be good today because this is a regular conversation when I think about being a mother, being an educator, having clients that have come to me. By the way, I'm no doctor. I am a certified life coach. And I would love for you guys to join me in conversation. I would love for you guys to come in and talk about what it is that you want to talk about. I'll always have a subject to talk about, but I want you guys to chime in. I want to hear from you. I want to give you an opportunity. No forcing. This is live conversation. So children, how do we look at the development of children? You know, a lot of times, because I love children, I look at the reels with smart kids, babies, and I think to myself, they are unique. They are little people with bright minds. But how are we going to stir the mind of a child? After all, it's going to depend on what you do as a parent. And I want to tell you this. No parent is perfect. Come a little closer. I said, no parent is perfect. But how are we looking at our children so as to raise them so that they can be productive? All over the internet, we cannot get enough of what these kids do. They are very, very smart. Never underestimate what a child can tell you. Even as a podcast host of Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast, we talk about early childhood. And all of us have been affected by our early childhood. And some of us have went on and out of our experience of being very young, have faced painful, have faced joyful. Some of us have went through leaps and bounds just to get to where we are. So I want you to think about your childhood. What was your childhood like, and how does it differ from today? I know for me, I was raised very old school, and I'm grateful for that because it taught me a sense of discipline. Being strict, sometimes our parents, really what they want for us is to just grow up and know how to survive in a world. And might I add, a world that is full of craziness. And all our parents want us to do is grow up. I want to hear from some parents as well today and tell me if you guys are experiencing the difficulties of raising children. I am no expert because, as I have said, raising children is one of the hardest jobs I've ever encountered. And how you raise them, too, is a factor. And just because you raise them well doesn't mean that everything will be well. You will face challenges. And that's what we are doing on Friday. Usually my in-sessions may be on a Wednesday or Thursday, but because I didn't do a podcast this morning on facing challenges, what challenges have you faced as you are dealing with raising children? And if you're an educator, I'd love for you to call in. I'd love for you to call in and tell me the changes that you've seen and how you go about making the difference in a child's life. Because you matter. Oftentimes children go through things. Oftentimes children are dealing with so many stresses of life. But as they deal with the stresses and the treasures, and the pressure of life, what can we do to help them? They go to school, they leave us, they're in school, and they still are under pressure. Children are smart, and yet their brains are still very delicate. We want to address some issues that children might be facing. Bullying. You may be a parent that is facing child bullying. You may have been a victim of child bullying yourself. I want you to chime in. We want to give you opportunities to say something because your story will help so many other people. So how are you doing in regards of dealing with your child's things? And let's even talk about the inner child. Some of us are having issues with that. We say we're all grown up, but yet we lack things that we didn't get as children ourselves. And in order to give our children the best gift in life, we must deal with ourselves. So we're talking to the inner children. Some of my sessions have been about that. That has been helpful. And I know if you all just gave it a try that you would indeed say how helpful it has been for you. Has it been helpful to you? I would love to ask you that. Has it been something that's been so helpful to you? How do you feel about being able to go back and look at your childhood? You know, some of us are regretful. And this is your time to be able to talk. As families, how do you mingle with your adult children? I know for me, as any mother or any father, you can get really frustrated. And don't let the frustration be something that you feel is going to get in the way of your relationships. I know there's somebody that needs to hear this today. When you come in session, it is designed for you to be able to talk it out at no cost. And we mean that. And that's why we have in session. And you can join in the conversation, tap into the conversation, or even start up one. And it's designed for you to help yourself as well as help others. So dealing with children or being a child has its pros and its cons. How about children that might not get to see their parent because of a breakup, because of a separation? Are we taking it out on the children, or are we allowing the children to love both parents? Or are you the type of parent that just because you're having a squabble or some sort of argument or disagreement with a significant other, are you putting the child in the middle of that? I know that there's a lot of people out there that are doing that. Let's be real with that. But you're only hurting that child. You're not hurting each other. The child is going to be affected. If you want your children to grow up and to make good decisions or to be intelligent enough, then teach them intelligence. Teach them how to make wise choices. I've seen even at 5 years of age, children make good decisions. How do they know that? Some have to be taught naturally. And if they're making decisions, let them make decisions so that they learn from. Children are very influenced by the things that we do more than what we've said. How are we doing in this area? Educators, are we servicing the entire classroom of children? Or do we decide right off by outer appearance that one child is smarter than the other, or are we giving them a chance to get smart, to learn? All of us hold a responsibility toward children. I just happen to love children, and so it's a very easy subject to talk about. More difficult when I see little children that can't help themselves. What are we doing in the lives of our child? I have seen tons and tons of the cutest little reels, and that lets me know that every child deserves an opportunity to be able to think and create. We happen to be talking about this in one of our podcasts that we had this week. Go check out the podcast. But I was given an analogy of crayons, Crayolas. We all are familiar with the Crayolas. How many times have we colored? Or how many times have your child colored and created from just those color crayons? Why did I analyze that? Because the illustration was meant for us to understand that our minds create beauty from inside. If your child has brought home this week anything that has been drawn, I want you to go back and I want you to look at that picture and look at how they create. They're smart. And I want you to either frame it or put it on their wall or the refrigerator, somewhere where they can see it. Because when you start to create in them confidence, assurance, purpose, and tell them, good job, they learn and grow from that. Being in the years that I have been in the education system, 16 years, I've learned so much from child creativity. Children are very smart, and that's why we as adults can go back to our childhood and remember things. Either things that we've been challenged by, things that have hurt us, things that have made us be better parents. All from that, the way that we were raised has a lot to do with what we are making integral parts of our children's life. And parents, I'm going to hold you responsible for whatever is going on with you and your children, just as I do for myself. Because let me tell you, as they get older and become young adults, it makes it not so easy as one would think. Because as they get older, your children, any children, they might have a whole new different plan. Is that okay? It's not up to me to judge or for you to judge, but many parents out there may be frustrated and not understand totally how to deal with it. How many times have you wondered is that person ever going to get any common sense, or is that person ever going to grow up? Now, I know you've said it as parents, some of you. And yes, the answer is finally yes, they will grow up, they will get sense, and they will be able to give that sense to the children that they give birth to. If you're ever a child and you were never able to express yourself, how do you learn to help your children express themselves? Let me hear you. Oh, listening. Listening. We have to become listeners. How many of you have said, be quiet, go sit down, I'm busy? Me. So when do we find time to listen? When should we find time to listen? I want you to think about those questions because I'm not here to answer them. I want you to be thinking about them and how you can be a real foundation for any child. Every day while leaving the school grounds or leaving the learning places that I have been, I've often wondered how I have affected a child's life. That was always my biggest concern. How am I affecting them? Well, here is the answer. As I was in a grocery store one day, in my first year of teaching what was Head Start, a student remembered that I was their teacher. And I don't remember these kids after they've grown up because they look so much like adults with kids. And across the store aisle, the girl began to say, I remember you. You were my teacher. She ran over to hug me. I didn't know her from anybody else. But the impact on her. And I asked her, is your memory of me a good memory? She says, yes. I always loved you. We had so much fun. The impact. How do we impact the young people that have been in our lives? Our nephew, nieces, our aunties and uncles, how they've impacted us, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters. I tell that story because I know that every person has a story. I want to hear from the teachers. I want to hear from the community people and how you're impacting the young people today. How are you impacting young people? Because it goes a long way. I wouldn't have known that girl to save my life. Wouldn't have known her. Because they grow up. Those are teachable moments. And every child has a teachable moment. Just because they're children doesn't mean we can't learn from them. So with that, I say to you, let's learn from them. Let's be better examples, better leaders. Let them follow our lead so that they can grow up and they can give to their offspring foundation, purpose. And they can be better fathers, better leaders. And the in session is always about teachable moments. Today I decided to talk about children because I think it's important how we've grown up, how we learn, how we see things, how we perceive in life, what happens to us, and how we're doing with being able to help a child. And for anybody that's listening to this on Children Today, I'd love for you to add in the comments what you thought about this in session. And I want to tell you guys, you've been so gracious that you never put anything negative down. I have to really say that, as much as we have been here discussing so much, you guys have never put anything negative down. And if you do, it'll be a first time. So I thank you for that. If you want to know more about In Session, I would love to chat with you more about that. We are making an effort, my team and I, to get In Session out to you. And it's all part of grouping to talk about what's on the minds of people. It doesn't have to be all the same thing. It's for you to chime in on what's going on. If you have questions, if you need resources, that's what it's for. But I'm going to encourage you to please listen to our podcast. This in session is for you. This is about the fourth one that we've done today is. And I'd like for you to share it and give some commentary on children. Or what your story is as you grew up as a child. They are great conversation starters. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is start conversations. I want you to be able to start beautiful conversations because we can all learn from one another. You have been listening to Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast in session. Whenever you see that, you know that that's your time to be able to definitely reach out. With that, I bid you a good weekend, and I hope that this week's in session has helped you. All about children and how impactful they've been to you, or what you're going through raising your child or teaching a child. This conversation can be wide and vast for so many, and that's what we want. Last week's was about recovery. Go catch it on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page. There I am. Sometimes I will be on camera, and sometimes I won't. But last week's I was on camera and we talked about recovery. Thanks for joining us, and you've been in session with me, Coach Anisi, and I look forward to being able to talk with you guys. Even when we're not in session, you can always leave me a comment. Okay? Have a great weekend and stay safe, everybody.